Morning, Jeff. All right. Still sliding. Terrible. Yeah. She's that whole episode in the last week. She's gone. Got even more.
You're glad you had a chance to take your Saturday to come visit with us.
It's a pleasure. How are you doing? How you doing, Sydney? Yeah. Oh, wow. My parents said that when we were our first dog. So. Oh yeah.
Well, I wish I would have known all that they do. I would have known together.
Yeah.
On it because we're not gonna keep that. But yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. So we're good. So we're off.
I'd call the Belville Board of Commissioners special meeting, budget workshop at 9 a.m. on Saturday, March the 25th at 2023. I see it's not on the agenda. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we want to thank you for the blessings you have bestowed on us, Lord. believe that the beginning of our founding fathers, down by our creed. Lord, we ask you to give us the wisdom to make decisions and judgments that will benefit the citizens of our town. In the precious name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is one of our commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem Chuck Bach, can't be here today, he's out of town. Can I have a motion that we excuse him? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda. The commissioners have an opportunity to go over the agenda for today. Any changes or additions or subtractions, please let us know. If not, I have a motion to accept the agenda in its entirety.
So good.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody here today. Thought we were gonna get some bad weather on. Thankfully, look out the door and actually see a little bit of sunshine. And if you will, keep some of the people down in, I think, Mississippi or Missouri, some of the other states. Tornado went through last night, and I think they said it's total about 14 dead now. So keep any thoughts and prayers. I'm going through, and that weather front is coming through this way with that. Talk about anything serious hitting us, thank goodness. But like I say, welcome to our workshop today. And, I have a current list. We'll start off with donation request. And I think with family assistance. You want to pronounce your first name? Did I mess up?
Very was
You come on up anyway. You will, I'll let you pronounce your name that way, I won't mess it up.
It's a hard one. It's Tiffany Agnello.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to see you here today. Thank you for getting up early.
My pleasure.
Represent the organization for the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, good morning to all of you guys. My name is Tiffany Agnello, and I'm with Community Outreach for Brunswick Family Assistance. So we applied for $2,000 to help our clients living in the 28451 zip code. That grant will support our direct financial assistance program, which actually helps our clients pay for utility bills that they may be late on, that they may be disconnected on, as well as helping them avoid eviction and homelessness, because we help with their rent bills that are late, and we can also help if they're moving in for the first months of rent as well. So that's what we plan to utilize these funds for. It's important to know that all of our clients are living at or below 130% of the federal poverty level. So that's meaning that most of our clients are making under $19,000 a year. And when you do the research, and the average rent in the 28451 zip code is $1,500, and then utilities can be around $350, and then you're adding groceries on top of that, it's becoming unfeasible for our clients to live, quite frankly, without our support. So that's why we rely so heavily on you guys and other organizations in our county who are willing to help this mission move along. Since opening up our Leland office, which was in 2018, we've actually helped 32,000 individuals in the 28451 zip code. So that's about 10,000 families, and we're hoping that with this money, we could probably help about 10 more families every year, which may not sound like a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but it really is when that's 10 families that could be out on the streets this month or sitting in their house with no water or electric for the month. So I think it's just very important to thank you guys for this opportunity, and your continued support of BFA, because truthfully, a lot of people thank us for what we do in this county, but it would not be possible with everybody that makes it possible through these funds, and support.
Any, questions? But your organization's always been a great one in this county. One I think myself and the commission would like to support, because we're supporting individual people. And I can say this is the most detailed report I've ever seen given on any organization that worked here. I went through looking at all this, and I said, well, you're talking about being open and up front, I'm about as open as up front as you can get.
Nothing to hide.
But y'all have been, you've been good for county. Y'all done great things. And how big, I know, I think, now y'all just Brunswick County? or-
Just Brunswick County, yes, sir. So we have our location in Newland, but we also have one in Shallotte, which would be our headquarters.
Well, appreciate that. Commissioners, do y'all have any comments? What I asked for was 2,000, and another time I think that's what we gave last year also.
Yes, sir.
I can tell you that I utilize BFA extensively with a benevolent program that I'm over, and it would not be possible without their help. And they also make it a whole lot easier on the other individuals out there that are trying to provide assistance to you. So I'm in complete support of it.
Well, if it's not anything, I know this is our first workshop, but we can go ahead and make a dedication to this. So, not, I'll go ahead and put a motion on it. We, accept this, authorize the $2,000 donation to the family assistance.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. You have it, young lady.
Thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see on the agenda that I actually missed something that I should have done first. I missed it. Wrong agenda. Okay, resolution R 23-07, a resolution by the Belville Board of Commissioners commemorating the town's 46th birthday. You have a good day. man.
You too, thank you.
Find that resolution. I got it. Yeah, I think I probably read it, or have we done this at a regular meeting at all?
No.
Resolution by the Belville Board of Commissioners commemorating the town's 46th birthday, where the town of Belville is located along the banks of the Brunswick River, was chartered as an incorporated municipality on March 14th, 1977 by the North Carolina General Assembly with the appointment of Honorable John Long as first mayor, and John Bowman, Brian Galloway, Marshall Tennessee, and Joe Kaiser as the first commissioners. Whereas the Belville area was home to David Lindsay Russell Jr., 49th governor of North Carolina, whereas it is the desire of the Belville Board of Commissioners to commemorate the success and prosperity that the town has experienced since the incorporation. And whereas the Belville's history is interesting, the Belville Riverwalk contains remnants from the former Bowie plantation and has military significance. And it was the site of at least 2 skirmishes between the Patriots and the Royalists during the Revolution. And whereas approximately 2,462 proudly call the town of Belville their home. Now therefore be it resolved that the Belville Board of Commissioners hereby encourage all citizens of business to celebrate the town of Belville's 46th birthday and participate in the upcoming Founders Day celebration on May 6th, 2023, about the 25th day of March, 2023. Could I have a motion that we accept this resolution?
So moved.
All in favor?
Happy birthday.
The ayes have it. I think, and I'll do this real fast, I think I mentioned to some of y'all, the part that you saw in there started doing some research, and we're trying to open this up because of the historical significance of where our town actually sits. The Bowie Plantation and the Belville Plantation bordered each other right at our park. One of the owners of it was General Benjamin Smith. The other one was Alfred Moore. Both of them were in the Revolutionary War. Both of them were officers in the Continental Army. One of them was adjutant to George Washington, and George Washington used to come down and visit them at this location quite often. The hardest thing we're trying to find is where actually their homes were built. We know they're within the park and the school area, somewhere in there. So we're trying to locate them and see what we can find. We got the documentation, we got the maps, so and we got the history of the two skirmishes during the Revolutionary War. And one of the skirmishes happened where those old brick foundations are in our park, was part of the area where the battle went on. I found out we had one of the guys that went out with a metal detector has found musket balls there, which he would be presenting to the town and would document the exact location where they were at. So I think it's important that we exercise and show people the historical significance of even where the town of Belville sits. The regional plantation here was called the Belvedere Plantation, which covered over 12,000 acres. But at the end of the Revolutionary War, since the owner was a loyalist, he went back to England and the land was divided up. So then the Bowie Plantation and the Belville Plantation were created. And all of those, including Lindsey Russell, were governors of the state of North Carolina. And Alfred Moore eventually was the first person from North Carolina, I think one of the honors there, sat on the U.S. Supreme Court. So I'd say it's pretty historical significance right here in the town of Belville. And we'll move on from there. Get kind of tied up in this history stuff. Okay, let's see, next on our donation, Mr. John Clark, I think you next on our list, sir. Our ABC chairman. Thank you for coming forward, sir.
I don't ask for a donation, I give a donation.
I know. The floor is yours, sir.
Several things I'd like to talk to you about. Last year, we committed $300,000. That was confirmed by town manager today. Right now, because we have not finished our budget, we're just starting the process as well. All I can do today is commit to another $300,000. And as of the second quarter, the third quarter ends the end of this month, so we don't know numbers yet, but as of the end of the second quarter, we've already given the town over $265,000. So that's one good piece of information so far. We know we'll exceed $300,000 with 6 months of profit payments that come into the town. But the bigger reason I'm here today is to ask your permission, because you are the appointing authority for all the members of the ABC board. And I sent a letter to the town manager, hopefully you had a chance to read that. The audit that was just completed last year for 2021 to 2022 identified short payments to our law enforcement and to alcohol education, which are both required by statute. We went back to verify that. Our accountants did a historical look at all the information. Myself, board member Richard Trexler, and now our former general manager Michelle Ford York has also did information, and we went back, just for information for you, on law enforcement. We went back 12 years and looked at all of the payments that were made to the law enforcement organizations. And we were able to verify each of those based on audits or on what's called distribution sheets. When we also looked at alcohol education, up until 2015, we gave the town money to pay that for us. And the commission, the ABC commission at that time, told us that we need to do that directly. So So we've gone back to 2016 and again verified all the information. But what happened within the last 2 years is two major things caused that, which our accountants have verified, caused that extra payment issue. We were lucky enough, through the accountant's knowledge, to file for an employee retention credit that was allowed under the COVID-19 regulations. So we received over $80,000 back from the federal government on that. But unfortunately, we didn't classify that as income. So that would have raised our profits. Again, it would have raised the two donations to the law enforcement and alcohol education. The second issue is, several years ago, we had a new inventory control system put in. But there are still bugs in that. And one was the collection of information that categorized the inventories, in some cases the transfer of alcohol from one store to another. So that caused another error in our calculations over the last couple of years. And the auditor found both of those through his knowledge, and that caused these two issues that come up. Our budget is so tight at this point this year, we just on Tuesday authorized a budget amendment that took almost every dollar we had in our contingency funds to pay some of the things that were over. One of the big issues was our accountant had extra costs that supported us during our audit. And we had a lot of problems with the auditor, which unfortunately happens to be the same auditor that the town uses, Thompson Price. Although we have a problem with one individual, not the firm. So I'm here today to ask your permission to use the two extra funds that you authorized years ago, one in 2015 and one in 2018. One's the capital improvement fund, one is the future construction fund. That's 10% each that was taken from the profits over those period of time. And as of March, the capital improvement fund has $276,000 in it, and the future construction has $272,000 in it. So we'd like your authorization to take about $40,000 or $41,000 from those two funds to pay these extras. Now, I was concerned because this happened 2 years in a row. We had money last year to pay the small amounts. This year, almost tripled. We've gone back and had our accountants look at why this happened. Hopefully, they have found a reason for why it happened, and it won't happen again. We'll see what happens in the third quarter, which comes up after the end of the month. Hopefully, our calculations again are correct at this point, and it doesn't again happen with another audit that'll come at the end of the fiscal year in July. So that's the big reason that I'm here, is to ask for your permission to be able to do that. We can't do it without your permission. My other choice is, if you happen to say no, then I've got to break those up into a couple of payments over the next 2 quarters and see if we can scrape some money in different places to pay for that. It is an extra payment to the organizations. They aren't missing anything because there's no way, like the $300,000 give to the town. You know what you expect from us. Those two organizations don't. It's simply a donation that we're giving them to move forward with what the legislature has mandated for all ABC stores and ABC stores across the organization. So that's the big reason that I'm here.
Any questions from the commissioner?
Questions?
I've looked over at John, I went through what the information you sent and everything, and I agree with them. I don't think we'll have an issue with you taking money out of those funds. What I do ask, that whatever information you have, once you find out you've got it, you find out exactly what the problem is and fix, that just make us aware of it.
Okay.
But, he put that request in to have a motion that we allow the ABC commission.
Yes, sir.
You're right.
Yes,
So
sir.
he already made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
John.
much. One other issue I want to tell you about is, while we went back 12 years to look at the funds we sent to law enforcement and alcohol education, we also looked at all the funds that we paid to the town. And with the help of your accountant, Kemi, he gave us his cost accounts over those 12 years. We found out that we actually owed the town $144,000, but don't get smiles yet. We also paid extra payments of $143,000. The other thing that the accountant didn't take into account when they did their research is you authorized years ago 6 payments that we could give you only 50% of the allowance for profit while we had expanded the Waterford store. He didn't know that. So that was another $69,600. In the end, with all of this going through, and over the years, we've given the town $2.7 million. We owe the town $890. So we did a lot of research with the accountant, Michelle. She's now left us. She's moved on to bigger and better things. Hopefully, I think she said she's moving to Missouri. But she did a lot of research on this and pulling up all these files over 12 years. So I wanted to give you that information as well. So that'll be included in whatever payment we make for the third quarter.
Appreciate it. How's the search for a general manager?
We just placed that with the town yesterday. It was sent to the commission for distribution across the ABC boards if there's any interest that people have on moving to the coast. It'll be placed this weekend probably on, not Indeed, on LinkedIn. And we're trying to get it on Facebook, if that's possible. So we have since it's so new, we have no resumes that have been submitted at this point. So we tried to talk to people. We just had a conference in Wilmington this night, the ABC board. And we talked to some individuals locally to see if they had interest in coming to Belville. And at least 3 said no, or they said yes, but the price would be astronomical for us in our budget.
I wanted to, make you aware, Commissioner Merrill, with the community college, that we have a job there, and we're also going to be there as well.
Okay.
So if you want to have someone attend with us.
All right.
Send your information with us, we can put that out. This is the job site for the League of Municipalities.
Mhm.
And they list jobs there, that they see there's an agency director already.
Oh, okay.
City.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions on any other subject?
We're good, we appreciate the hard work on it, we've been busy, Michelle leaving.
Yeah. But we're still en route to have sales in excess of $7 million this year. It's questionable the next 6 months, well, including the past 3, whether we can maintain where we were, because December was almost $1 million in sales alone. So we have to see. We can't anticipate yet if there's going to be an increase. It may just be as small as 3%. We keep trying. All we can do is guess at this point with experience. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah, thank you.
ABC, well, commissioner, for the money we got, a lot of projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank
So,
you,
John,
board
take
and
care.
staff.
Good job.
All right, I will.
That's another question. We'll move to the next one, contract. Do we have anybody else for the donation to deal with? Okay, we'll go on to contracts and Mr. Jeff.
Yep. Let's see the erosion control, we're doing that first, or?
Talk about contract first, and then erosion, if you want to come up to close it.
Okay.
Up to you.
I noticed that here. So, I'm not sure who on blindsiding here, but I let them know a couple months ago that, this fiscal year now is going to be our last year doing engineering services for them. So, we're providing a contract for the first 3 months of the next fiscal year in terms of, helping staff do the things that we've, had more hands-on, the past year. So that would go through, like I said, the first 2 months through September 30th. Help them with that transition, however you guys decide to do it. Going from there. I think the town for all the years. But the work that we do in Kavanaugh now is shifted over the years, and it's not really the traditional civil engineering work that we've done. So, for example, I haven't done a stormwater permit since the phase one of Belville really long. So, it was very different work and getting different work in. So,
I hate to see him go. We'll be tracked in case you come back. That's what the world is, change a lot of time. Jeff, you've been a good partner working with him. Actually, you're part of the team. Here at the time. I appreciate what you personally done. It's always been easy to work with. Reactive, need help. We appreciate that. Any other data that we need to know, Madam Town Manager?
Just wanted to let you know that we do have an RFQ out already with engineering services. And, it's gonna cover a multitude of things, it'll cover some of the reservoir project, our internal stuff here. And any other, multi-use items that we have. So we've got some good responses from that, and it'll close out soon.
Yeah, but more things I have to mention, we need to make a motion now or wait later in our budget before we make a solid commitment. You never know, Jeff, I have to stay for another year.
Those funds are already in the budget, so
They're already in, so we just go ahead and make a motion, go ahead and step over the commission on that motion. That's, all in favor? All opposed, ayes have it. Jeff, thank you so much. We'll be talking before you leave.
Yeah, no problem. I know, wanted me to go through the erosion report. I don't know if we want to do that now.
So, you want me to go through it, go ahead and go through it.
And, do I have a hard copy over here?
it's in your, it's in the planning department tab. The planning department.
Say again?
It should be right behind you, the planning.
Yeah. As a follow-up to the erosion control report I did almost exactly 3 years ago, the town asked me to go back out there and do an update. So there were basically 4 main areas that I identified that are having erosion issues out of the park. The first one being the bank near the Duke Energy Pavilion, the 2 being essentially the entire cove, I call it, around the boat ramp, the slope that leads to the cove and that boat ramp area. And kind of tied to that, number 3, the observation deck is seeing some signs of wear. And then the 4th one, the fishing pier. There might be other areas of erosion that you could identify, but I think those are the 4 main ones that are having the most issues. To dive into that a little bit, and I'll kind of play it by ear as how in detail we want to get here, but going to take them piece by piece, starting with the area near the Duke Energy Pavilion. I think that's the area that's in most need of immediate attention. The other areas need to be addressed, but don't necessarily need to be immediately. Got some pictures in here to try and give you some sense of what's going on. The pictures I recently took, I didn't intend for them to be before and after, but in looking at my pictures from previous years, it ended up being a pretty good comparison pictures to choose from. So all the pictures you see with a thick blue border around them are going to be older pictures, overall, as all the other ones, are from this year, 2023. And, the top of each picture will indicate that as well. Like uphill on that Duke Energy Pavilion, you can see, the roots that are continuing to be eroded. And then when you, on page 2, which is showing all those roots, that they have up here on the screen, the very next page is if you turn 180 degrees from there and look at the river. There are several trees falling into the water. That area is just continuing to erode. The uphill area is eroding more slowly, but the area near the bank is eroding fairly quickly. And because of that, that slope that goes down towards the water is making its way towards the Duke Energy Pavilion as the years go on. So the pavilion's not any risk of structural defectiveness at the moment, but it, say another decade, it could be at risk of that. So, and that's a guess of the estimate of time. And then I got on page 4 is down at the end of that bank, just give a better sense of the water's like 10 feet down from where that pavilion is. So it's a fairly aggressive slope, and it's just eating away at that area. It's basically happening due to multiple factors. I blame large storm events mostly, but also with the combined with the uphill runoff from just stormwater coming down the hill. It's a combined effect that just continues to eat away at that slope. So as far as recommendations to fix it, I kind of take it from easiest to fix and least costly to more involved and more costly. First things first would be to try and get grass established on that uphill part where all the bare areas where the roots are showing. I say try to get grass established because it's a pretty shady area and it's going to be tough to get grass established there. So, in general, vegetation's probably the best and easiest thing to get erosion stabilized. But if grass can't be established, I'm also thinking maybe to put seeding grass might be kind of tough. Maybe sod would be easier to establish, but even then, if grass is not able to get established, maybe try and use some mulch. The downside of that is large storm events could just wash that away, but it would at least help with the erosion that's in that area. Also, right in front of that pavilion, between the pavilion and the water, I would suggest trying to make that as vegetated as possible and prevent people from accessing that area at least as much as possible. Maybe leave a path to the bank, but even then, I would say just try and keep it vegetated so people don't erode that area. Some background there is DEQ and their stormwater permits require a 50-foot vegetative buffer from the water, and that's mainly for erosion control purposes. Just having that thick vegetation, like I said, is a great way to prevent the erosion. Beyond that, possibly using some rock check dams up at the top of that bank to help that water slowly seep through into the water instead of it during large storm events just creating a washout. To try and give you a sense of what that is, I don't know how many of you have seen the Gregory Road. The ditches that they did there were there were rock check dams set every 100 feet or so. So that's what I'm talking about there. More involved would be trying to get that slope graded out by a contractor, where my recommendation would be to have it at a slope no steeper than 3 to 1, and that's every 3 feet horizontally, it'll go 1 foot down. Right now, it's more like a 2 to 1 or a 1 to 1, so it goes 2 or 1 foot horizontally for every foot it goes down. Trying to get that slope graded out by a contractor, where my recommendation would be to have it at a slope no steeper than 3 to 1, and that's very 3 feet horizontally. It'll go 1 foot down. Right now, it's more like a 2 to 1 or a 1 to 1, so it goes 2 or 1 foot horizontally for every foot it goes down. that, with the erosion that's already occurred, that, it might be possible to use the existing dirt that's there, to make that happen, get that slope, to be established. It might be that fill actually needs to be brought in to, at least keep that slope from having to be moved closer towards the pavilion. But I say that because the fill, as I understand it, requires a camel permit. But it would keep that slope farther away from the pavilion, so it would be worth looking into or considering. And then that slope, if it was chosen to be done, if it was chosen to be regraded or stabilize it with grass / vegetation. And I say grass / vegetation because it being a brackish or saltwater area, it's another unique part of this is getting normal or traditional grass to be grown there is going to be tough. So particularly along the water's edge, could look into planting actual types of marsh grasses, like cordgrass, etc. That's another thing there. We talked about this a little bit of that could require a camel permit. And with the observation deck repairs that we did 9 years ago or so, the riprap that we added was only allowed to go in certain areas. It couldn't go into the natural grass areas. So that's where it could be a catch-22 if you add grass. Maybe that becomes something that you can't touch later through DEQ or Camel's Eyes. It's worth considering. And then beyond that, adding riprap on that slope, kind of like what was done at the observation deck years ago. And that's pretty much it. I also mentioned here just planting more salt marsh grass at the bottom of the bank to kind of help stabilize that area. So that's all kind of going in order of options that could be considered and kind of increasing costs as you go down that list.
Jim, let me ask you this, how much of a headache I know it costs if we decide we want to put a bulkhead on a portion of that? I know there's a lot more headaches to go through to do that.
Yeah, and even before considering that, it would be my preference to try riprap and keeping it as a slope over the wall. And I meant to mention it on page 6. It's just an example. That's from Lake Michigan, but it kind of gives the example of the feedback loop that's happening between large storm events that raise the water level, washes out the dirt below it, and creates a steeper slope, etc. And stormwater runoff continuing to erode that area.
So I think it's like you said, a lot of, we not only have the river doing a lot of water runoff there on heavy rain events, just pouring off that bank.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna tear it down even more.
That river will carve out the lower part of the dirt and create kind of an overhang of the dirt, and the stormwater runoff kind of eats away at that. So it feeds back on itself.
And I've been observing it since I've been here 10 years. We've probably lost probably 3 to 4 foot of frontage in all those areas. So we need, and I think the rocks we put there, the observation deck has slowed that way down. I don't see a whole lot of erosion anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely helped.
Looks like it works pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be something we'll have to think about. We'll have to make a decision on that, but it's something we got to look at because it is a road fairly quick. Definitely, like I said, I know within 10 years, if we don't do something, it'll be up close to that big.
Mm-hmm.
It's ready to see the way now.
Yeah, and there's, like I said, options involved. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation of you could ask for a plan to be put together for it, but does there need to be some sort of budget in mind for putting that plan together?
noticed the, federal government has been making some, they've been talking about trying to get funding for erosion control. A lot of what I say is probably grants, pretty big grants. I hope some of those are available. They're on some big money.
What we've done, Mr. Mayor, Adrian and I, we have applied for the stormwater feasibility study grant, and if we are successful in getting it, then it was paid for some of that. And then after that, there would be a component where they would allow us to get money for construction. So that's one thing that they've done to that end, but, I think Jeff is gonna try to give us some idea of what the cost might be and things that we could do immediately. Maybe 2 or 3 months before we know whether we.
Yes, I'm trying to look at short term. I think what Jeff suggesting from the rock in the short term is gonna be the cheapest way to go. But I guess we have to get a permit for Cameron to do that.
Yes.
We need to do especially for being, but I think, and you're right, for being first road the quickest from the other areas.
Yeah, got the other areas to talk through here after we get this one, some of the stop here. This is the one that needs most immediate attention.
We will look at it. There'll be some decisions probably coming up sometime this year or at least next year, for sure. If in the short term we have to put rocks out, we'll pretty much slow it down.
Yeah, and we might have to talk through, and I might talk through with Katina, the different options involved that make it a little bit hard to come up with a cost without having to open a can of worms and come up with all kinds of different costs of what can be done. So try and find kind of a low, medium, and expensive way.
Yeah, I think we can try, we'll try at least a way to slow it down. I think with some of the projects and what we see the government coming up with on some of the possibility of grant money for these erosion processes for areas like ours might be available. We can go from there. And we can always ask for some money from our state representatives that maybe they'll be kind to us, and, just like they do with the beaches. Instead of getting 500 something, they get 4 or 5 million for erosion control. We might be trying to push some letters up, see if we can get them to respond to that and see if we can get some funding to do that with. But to do it, the best way to do it is always have a plan. We've got a plan. Then a lot of times they look at it, their people look at it, they're funded.
Yeah.
At least it's being, main thing is, it's a benefit. We know we got some issues that deal with.
Yeah.
Y'all have any questions? Anything else, Madam Town Manager?
I wanted to go through both other areas really quick.
Okay.
Because that Duke Pavilion area, that was the crux of the issue. Also start laying out the boat ramp code on page 8. Just for perspective, it's hard to see over the years how that erosion is slowly occurring, but there are some fairly sized trees that you can see falling over as the years progress, and that tree wouldn't have gotten as big as it is without dirt there to support it. So it kind of gives evidence that erosion is occurring in those areas. That boat ramp code is I think a more longer term thing to look at. If I were designing it today, like I said, that 3-to-1 slope, so kind of a nice number to use here. With our sandy soils in southeast North Carolina. That code is more like a 2-to-1 slope. And even with all the vegetation and trees that have grown up over the years, it's still not enough to keep that thing stabilized, especially with large storm events. And even the boat ramp and all the So it's tough to get to those areas that are experiencing erosions because due to all the trees and brush that's there. It would be kind of a significant step, but kind of clean up that area, get all the brush out of the way so that those areas that need to be repaired can actually be accessed. So it might be that a lot of the trees, some of the trees need to be removed, just kind of clean up the brush in that area so that the erosion that's occurring can be addressed. Even more beyond that, it might be worth considering revising, sort of rebuilding that slope from the two one that it's at, or at least in some areas, so that it's less steep, slope, but it would take up more of the upland area. Could get involved. So the recommendations there are kind of similar, going in order, trying to get grass established as much as possible. Then what I call cleaning / restoration / beautification of that bank, removing all that shrubbery and trees only as necessary, and then potentially adding riprap along that entire road. And that all ties to the town's plans to hopefully clean out that code at some point with dredging or make that code more accessible. So that might be planned to be in conjunction with that. How will that permanently be done, et cetera. So, and with that code, it's such a big area that the tidal effects and this brackish water, the type of erosion that's occurring, especially along that code, is kind of complex. So we have experience with getting erosion established on sort of more traditional areas. It might be worth it for the town to consult what we call a stream bank restoration specialist, or someone that's more well-versed. Someone that does bulkheads or deals with the salt water areas or tidal effects, etc. Especially if the town wants to look at regrading that area and getting into costs that are more significant. So that's that on that. And then very quickly, I have here as well the observation deck is showing signs of wear from the work that was done in 2014. Adding some more of that riprap that was done in 2014 would be helpful. Also, possibly putting in some infiltration basins or what are called fire retention areas or stormwater wetlands in front of that observation deck to try and catch some of that stormwater before it has to go over into the river. That picture right there is probably the biggest change in that area. There used to be a little bit of grass and soil that was in that area. I think it's right where the boat ramp comes in, boat traffic and large storm events kind of eat away at that area. So that would kind of need to be addressed. And then lastly, the fishing pier, which wasn't on my report in 2020. But you can see in the pictures here, the old pictures are from 2016 when the fishing pier was originally built. And it's somewhat similar to the more recent pictures. You can see there is some erosion occurring in that area. The pictures I show on page 21 show the same tree for perspective. And you can see that soil is getting eaten away. That tree might be falling into the water not too far from now. So it wasn't in the budget for the original phase 1 of the Riverwalk to address much of that area around the fishing pier. But I think that's sort of a similar area to the observation deck that needs some attention. Probably a good bit more riprap. I saw there was been some riprap added underneath the fishing pier when that erosion was starting to get worse. But I think that's kind of just the start of what's needed to be quick rundown.
What we need to do is we're gonna get the study started for feasibility, looking at how much we think it would cost to build a website. They were making an electronic solution.
That's all I got.
You know, yeah, go on and, y'all don't have a problem with it, I'm gonna have to take a recess for about 5 minutes. We all have a problem with that? We recess 5 minutes.
President, out of count, freeze up.
And so, I'm thinking this a little bit.
And then you get some food.
Yeah, you was like,
No. Yeah.
And everybody knows what it's at.
I love the food for a lot of people. So you just need him, I don't look like this, but sometimes I'm worried about whether they do. I do.
I would say first, probably all this is gonna be good, but I'm gonna have all the getting that fast.
So, you're some better, no better, that's the same, is the problem.
So you can run back there in the morning and that.
And then so like that side, and I can get those.
What's one of the state for?
So how long do they think it will take it down?
I had a small piece before, I guess I just have the rest.
Like right now, it feels like
Yes, I'm here. And we're just having a little recess and I think you're next.
I thought you were talking to Brenda because she said, who me? Every time I say Brenda, both of y'all are. I'm like, I know it's not me because I can't even see.
Either email it to me or scan
So we
it.
can stay with the farm and so continue to evolve.
Yeah. Good deal. Thanks, guys. See ya. See
Don't you?
ya.
Who told you you could meet me?
See ya.
I can see you. Let's see, I didn't say all of that. Let's see, you started that.
Trying to sit down, they do all water, so. About one more thing.
Oh, yeah. Stop moving. I'll tell you your, classification.
Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
We're back in session. Okay, moving on our agenda, I think next we had, Mr. Nick Cannon, worked for Smart Move Consulting.
Yes, sir, he's on speakerphone. Nick?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. We hear you, thank you, Nick.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just wanted to jump on and introduce myself. As of, I guess, 2 weeks ago, I am the new social media manager for the town of Belville. So I will be, keeping up with all the social media platforms and then some other, duties as assigned. I heard earlier in this meeting, excuse me, an application out for the new manager for, the ABC stores. So working on that application, just got overall making sure that all pertinent communications for all the goings on in town of Belville are appropriately communicated to members of the community. So I'll be managing all those platforms. I live in Wilmington. I did work for, I know, I've met some of y'all before. I did work for the Wilmington NPO for about 4 years. So I'm very familiar with local government. And I did run social media platforms for the NPO during my time there, as well as the Go Coach program that they have. So I'm happy to be on board and work with Athena, and I support. And I'm also very close with Adrian Harrington, who's doing all the things we all as well. So I'm happy to be part of the team.
Well, Nick, we appreciate that on behalf of myself and the commissioners. Welcome to the team, and we look forward to, one of the things we've always wanted in our town was, since I've been here, is starting to get some name recognition and show people what type of town we are, what we're committed to, and let people know we're here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we failed in so many years in the past. Nobody ever knew we were here or knew anything about our town. So I think the platform we have, and Athena's told me some really good things about you as well as Adrian. So we look forward to a great working relationship with you.
Yes, me too. Terrific.
And thank you, and look forward to meeting you.
Yes, y'all as well.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate it.
Okay, any comments on this? Okay. All right, moving on to Parks and Recreation, Ms. Brenda Hewitt.
If you, turn in your book to Parks and Recreation, you will see Brenda's report, which looks like this. Recreation, if you keep flipping behind the pages, you can see it. It's in green there. Mhm. Good morning, Mayor Allen, Board of Commissioners, and Madam Manager. I'd like to present to you the Parks and Rec, Board's, budget for the year, fiscal year 2023-2024. This year, we have 5 new events. Our budget is a little bit bigger than it was last year, but, explain that. This year, we're doing, events that we've done in the past, but we did not budget for those events, and they came out of the town's budget. So this year, we're taking them out of Parks and Rec's budget because we're actually responsible for them. The first one is the Brunswick Heritage Ride. We're asking $200 for that. We're also asking $150 each for Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and that'll cover the wreath that we buy to put out at the memorial at the park. And the last thing would be the food truck radio. And we've got that budgeted for $1,500, which I understand that this year we have a sponsor, but we still put that in our budget to make sure that it's covered. Part of the additional fees, which about all but maybe $1,000, are salaries for staff employees who work these events, which is $4,641. But outside of that, in this packet, I have listed the events that we'll have throughout the year. I have listed last year's events, each one with the money we collected or what the town paid for, to show where we made money and where we had a deficit. So we made money on most of our events, the big events, with the exception of Founders Day. And last year we did have new signage made, and we also bought a credit card machine. So that kind of cut into our profits a little bit, but it's part of doing business. People want credit card machines. We try to actually accommodate those. We have 2 events that are always fully funded. One is the youth fishing tournament, and the second is the Easter egg hunt. And our 3 main events, like I said earlier, they pretty much pay for themselves, but our biggest profit is entertainment for children. So we're reaching out to different businesses in the community, trying to get some sponsorship for that. Plus, our next biggest expense are our 3 movies every year. They've gone from $325 or $350 to $375 a movie. So we're trying to cover that cost. We try to find a vendor or a local business that will sponsor some of that cost for us. And outside of that, I have on the last page, I believe, it might not be in your book because I just realized it late yesterday, made copies and put them in there, of the donations that we received last year for our events. And we received a total of $3,000 in sponsorship money. So that has been a big plus for us. But we do have those extra 5 events, and we also have the salaries in there this year, which kicks our budget up a little bit. So does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for all that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
And remember, that's what I want to say, you and the staff and the people that assist in it have made our park a big draw for our town. People always talk about the Belville Rural Walk Park. Everybody loves to come to it, they love our festivals, and if you notice, even other venues here that have events, we still way out doors for people coming to it.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of times they ask for our help in putting on their events. But, we're happy to help them in any way we can because when they're profitable, it reflects on us. And one other thing, the Dragon Law program, we have collected $905 through raffles and donations and things like that. We have spent probably $685. So we've still got a little bit of money left to buy the nymphs, but we're waiting for the right time of year to do that. But if you haven't been to the park to see, you need to see it. It's really impressive.
You know, I've actually had people make the comments about it now, or they'll ask me, so what's this dragonfly thing? So, you know, you get a chance to explain it, and, it's something different, and something functional, natural, mosquito control, and, whether something, we'll come back, like I said, probably the first one in the state to even do something like this.
Well, it's very interesting because a lot of people have never heard of it, and when you tell them about it, they are interested in the fact that, you know, you're trying to do something at the park to help control some of that mosquito. Mosquito bites over there.
That's what that's one thing they live to do, so if we can get them to grow and get out, they will eat mosquitoes up. I'm sure help people out there walking around Lake Eden when it warms up. Brenda, thank you, thank your staff, all the hard work you do, but without y'all, we couldn't make it happen.
We appreciate that. We strive to make our park and our town look really nice.
We know what we're doing, I think the future is gonna be better.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Thanks for looking at everything. That part. Anything else, Madam Town Manager? Anything else we need to have before we get into the budget? The rest of it? Okay, we'll move on to the fiscal year budget discussion, and, Madam Town Manager, I'll turn it over to you to start it off.
As always, we thank you for your hard work and your direction, help us prepare the budget. So, Mr. Goodson's going to start off by reviewing the revenues for you. And, saw in your memo that this budget at this point is based on us going revenue neutral with the tax base. So,
Thank you.
I want to go over with you kind of a getting an understanding of property taxes at this point. You should have a document like this, that's some bringing the other on, and kind of an update for reevaluation. But prior to the reevaluation, the tax value in the town was $216 million. The proposed figures that the county has given us at this point, that evaluation has jumped up to $305 million, which is about 52% increase. On this sheet here, we've given you several different options, so you can see how the revenues will come out if we did those. And just using last year's valuation of $216 million at a 12% rate, which we're using now, we generate $259,000 in revenue. Now, under the new valuation, we got $305 million if we use 12%, 12 cents, I'm sorry, 12 cents per 100. We bump your revenue up to $367,000, which is an increase of about 107 over what we had in the budget at this point. If we go revenue neutral, the tax rate would actually drop to 0.85 cents per 100. That would generate the same $260,000 that we have in the budget. And then we also have four other options there, what 9 cents will generate, what 10 cents will generate, what 11 cents will generate, and like 11.5 cents. So we just kind of give you all those numbers so you can be thinking about what impact all those things can have on the budget for this current year. But at the present time, we're just using last year's valuation of 12 cents, which is going to generate right at $260,000 in revenue. Now, if I can get you to switch to looking at your revenue sheet now. So I can go over those numbers with you. So the revenues are property taxes, one of our bigger income items is $260,000. That's what we're budgeting right now. And we have $16,000 for the D&D taxes. And that's when you get your license renewal each year. You pay for those taxes and those come back to the county. So we've got total taxes of $276,000. Our sales tax has really gone up this year quite a bit. And I'm thinking that next year we should be able to budget for like $850,000. I think we'll be close to about 950,000 for this year. That's just kind of an estimate at this point. So I'm trying to get a little conservative there. We might, as we get into May, be able to adjust that up some. Okay, as you're going down, House Bill Fund, we're expecting 60,000. Our multi-path use grants are in progress. We're anticipating $688,000 there from the WNPO. And also, we awarded that $500,000 part of the grant, which should come in this year. All right. Unrestricted revenue, we have beer and wine tax, which is distribution from the state each year, 10,000. The utility franchise tax is about 75,000. And then the permit fees that we collect from local folks here, I think that they want those 13,000. And we put $300,000 in the budget for the ABC. Then just miscellaneous revenue items down here, clock enters, $1,500. Miscellaneous income, 10 grand. Gate keys, 1,400, and then park rent for the park, farmer's market for the park is 6,000. And then to do the budget as we have proposed right now, we're going to have to take out about $377,000 on the fund balance. And we're anticipating right now, of course, in the next 2 or 3 months, we're anticipating we're probably going to have about $600,000 to $700,000 in fund balance for this current year. So basically, we're just carrying over a big chunk of that to next year. And then the last revenue item there is at $1.2 million. That was the skip grant that we got for the park. And that's money that hopefully we'll spend this coming year. And that's just in our fund balance. We've already received that money, but thank you, we're just planning to spend this coming year. So our total revenues would be like $4,370,000. You may have any questions on those? We'll understand anything.
I wish I could look at that every year, if we had 4 kids. I wish it was, regular taxes coming in, but still for us to be able to have that money, those grants that we receive, big plus in the town, on burden on the taxpayers.
Right.
And I think as far as, I talked to the county commissioners about the, property reevaluation. It's still not completely settled. They're waiting for feedback. Public, all the things, all the.
There's an appeal process.
It'll be filed back to see what they're going, what kind of adjustment what they're going to have to do. Revenue neutral, they have put something into the county manager, which I don't think they're going to go with. I'm going to get into it. But, what we'll have to decide, whether we go revenue neutral, which would be about 8.5 or 8.5 cents. Or maybe come down some, but at the same time, increase our budget a little bit because, we're getting at a point where we're going to really have to either have public hearings, let the citizens know, if there's some positions we have to have if we're going to survive as a town. And until we get those positions, we can't be as aggressive as we need to be to make the town grow. But we can't do that without money and salaries to attract the people to get them here. Some of these positions are hard to fill, even by places like Brunswick County. So you know what kind of a problem we're gonna have because we can't pay what the county can pay. So we don't have to make a decision on it, but y'all need to look at it. Let's see if we can come up with a reasonable amount. We need to put it out to our citizens. I think most of the people don't really understand exactly how all this thing functions. When they say, if we put it out there where your property value went up 42%, well, they just see dollars going up. They don't deregulate where your taxes stay the same, or goes up or down. Or, where we find a happy medium and bring it up a little bit so we can raise some additional revenue to do things we have to do. But, any comments from the commissioners?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And, we don't need to make a decision on that today, but to look at that chart, that may change a little bit based on some of the information, feedback, and all the towns will be waiting for feedback from the county again. But we'll have to make a decision, and I think looking at those, where do we want to be?
Actually, I do have one point. Can we add to that chart just a little bit? Because in a couple of cases, we divided up with half cents. We had a couple of more in there, like 0.105.
Yeah, sure.
10.5, and then maybe 9.5 also,
Sure.
just to give us more options to look at.
Okay, I'm glad to do that.
Thank you.
Looking at everything, because right now the economy is not as stable as it has been. I think there's issues coming up over the latter part of this year. Interest rates are going up. That means credit card rates are going up, groceries going up, fuel going up. So we got to judge that on how to treat this people in the community versus the town's needs. Bring they pay us the big bucks and make those tough decisions. Any other comments? The data comes in, we'll get it fed to you, and I know that things have it to us, the county commissioners finally make their final decision. We'll be coming out here very short. We'll get into it better.
If you're okay with the revenues, I'll go quickly through the departments.
Go ahead.
Just ask you a few questions. We're starting off with governing body, which is your department. And I have your salary highlighted in red. And I'm going to review, like, to have a cost of living increase, will remain the same. Yeah, so you would want to remain the same, so moving forward. 25,000 has been inserted for legal fees in case of redevelopment or litigation. And we have $6,000 in the donation fund. If you'd like to increase that or decrease that, I can make that adjustment as well. You don't have to answer me any of these questions now. You could email me at a later time.
The salaries, okay, there. I would like to see for the, not for us, not for, just speaking for myself, I would like to see an increase for the staff of some sort. And that might be in a future discussion or future consideration, at least if possible.
Okay.
If possible.
So,
And I think that's gonna come up a little bit later on too.
yes, what we have built into the budget right now is
Sorry, I jumped ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay.
an opportunity for a merit increase
Good.
of up to 6% with your evaluation.
Good.
But if you wanted to do a COLA instead, we could do that as well.
If we can figure out both, that would be better from us.
I'll bring you some options in the next meeting.
Great.
The general administration department has basically remained the same. There should be too many changes. Public safety as well. We may, as we get more citizens with our new apartment complexes, we may have to increase this amount. Basically, this $1,200 covers our response to animal control calls. So You may see that increase a little bit as our population increases. Under public works, we have our 2 part-time employees there and all of the items that we need to maintain the streets and our contract for debris removal services. Also, we have vehicles for that department, and uniforms, and the maintenance of the swale.
And, something I'll bring up, Madam Town Manager and Commissioners, our park right now is, with the increase we're gonna do with the new boardwalk, we're gonna put on the additional area that we're taking in, trying to develop. Right now we use part-time help to help Jim in the park. I think it's getting to a point where we're gonna have to make a decision whether or not we add a couple of employees just for maintenance on the park, not only just for the park, but the other things we have to do. But like I said, if we add 2 new park complexes are going in, and I think with the aggressive side, that I hope we're gonna take on annexation here shortly. If we at least consider, like I said, we have to, that's up to y'all, about adding some additional maintenance people to the park system. But right now, the part-time people that we have can't handle the load and the work that's taken in that park. It's a lot of work, as well as the rest of the town. I ain't just talking about parks, that we got the entire town we have to look at. I think the maintenance side that we got to keep up with even here at Town Hall. But, just consider that, look at it, and we can get your feedback at a later date. And, Madam Town Manager, cut on that, I don't know the salary range we have for maintenance people, but maybe if you could suggest what the fee would be for maybe a couple of maintenance people, full-time, not part-time.
So if you, look at the sheet that I have for you, if you brought in someone maintenance full-time and you pay them around $38,000, your true cost would be about $61,000 for each person. But I'll give you a more detailed report.
Okay, it's just something to think about, we got other positions. I think we should get into that, and I think the planning position and the finance side of it, we're looking at, it's already been budgeted.
Yes, those are both budgeted, within this calculation that we have today, and the true cost of those salaries are $82,000 each.
And that can't matter benefits.
Yes.
I think staffing is, seems like it's becoming a big issue we're gonna have to get our heads wrapped around. If not this year, we'll definitely not do it next year, but I think a lot's gonna happen before this year ends. If it goes our way, we're gonna definitely need to be good with it.
We're not in court this year.
Don't say that out loud.
At this,
At this time, we're not in court right now.
I think with the, two, you see the rate that our condos down the road are going at. They'll be in business fairly quickly, so that's additional revenue for the town when it's finished. But that's at a later, on this year's budget next, and of course, overall Pool Road on Waterford, they stepping that up fairly quick. But we got a potential down the road, we'll gain additional revenue and everything, but we're gonna have to start building, just like we talk about road infrastructure, we gotta start building the infrastructure within our town system to be able to deal with what's coming and what we already have. I think did a good job of hiring part-time people. know we're gonna have to have some additional staff in order to be able to handle this outside stuff and work. A lot of physical work, a lot of maintenance and everything else. We get that additional 1,400 foot of walkway in the past. There's actually a lot of maintenance on it. If you don't, somebody's gonna get hurt on it, or when we do get behind on it, the cost goes way up if we're not maintaining it. Plus everything else going on in the town. I think it's getting ready to open up. Things are our way, I think, from open up a lot. And y'all realize that, like I said, in December, that agreement with Leland dissolves. Our chance to annex property and take things in, that's gonna open the floodgates up. We got a lot of people that love to come in with us now. But if we ain't got the staff to maintain all this, it's worthless. We got to make sure we're on top of it and have the staff to handle it. That's just food for thought. Thank you, Madam Town Manager. We want to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning department, the item that you see for 900,000, that's the cost of us funding the multi-use path in advance. We will be, reimbursed that 80%, so that's why that number is so large. And then right below that at 100,000, this are the funds for the engineers that we spoke about earlier. Moving on to Parks and Recreation, you have your 2 employees there and all the maintenance required for the park. We have included an amount for a second garage, and also a second golf cart. We're starting to get to, the point where we're gonna need some additional equipment there. So, we would love to build a permanent facility, but the building costs are just way too high right now.
Something definitely needs to be done around the boat.
So, in order to enclose those items and keep them safe, we propose another metal building. And that will also give the park staff an area to work more efficiently. We have your Riverwalk construction there. That's just the upfront cost for the Riverwalk, and you saw in revenues where those funds will be reimbursed. Also, we did include a small amount for some new Parks and Recreation software, something that should help us begin to track the reservations and special events a little bit more efficiently, since they're starting to increase a lot more. The use of our park is really, really growing again now that COVID is over. So it's really exciting. Okay. We're still working on the sound system as well, so we'll see how it does tonight. Park Director installed 2 new speakers this week, so we'll see how that sound is. The capital outlay, we have just announced that we need to upgrade our computers and office equipment if necessary, as well as maintenance for the generator. And that should include the list of items from the departments. Is there anything that you feel we should include that we can bring back to you other than the salary and position classification analysis?
Comment on the thing committee wants to put out, everything we need to add to the position.
My suggestion was going to be construction of the garage, so it's already in there after sexual.
I think something always things alluded to it as well. We're having a lot of positive things that are happening this year. Different changes starting in, say, by next year. It'll be the first time that we have a firm footing, not a road revenue. But new projects will be done. We've got 2 new projects getting ready to go on. That's like Chattanooga, they will come into our town. And this year, we've already had a discussion with one gone. We had a discussion with a little bit later. There's a lot of positive sides, so we get a positive response because of these people. So, and of course, anytime you talk with them, the first thing they ask is, how's it going to benefit me? So, when you tell me it's a mutual benefit, we benefit each other. So, hard work coming up, especially for our staff for this year. That's the reason we've gone infrastructure here in the town, people who are not half to come up. I think our plan around the finance person will be key issues. Right now, everybody's having a hard time getting them. You do get them. Got some ridiculous amount of money to get them walk in it. County can't spend that. So it's pretty tough. But they're out there. We just gotta find them.
They to make sure that the salaries that are paid with the staff of the town are every once in a while, in the hospital, there's somebody who's set more of the line, there's an adjustment that's made, just want to make sure. I'm sure that, just want to make sure that the work position that we're on that's given the proper percentage.
Also wanted to mention, just to keep in the back of your mind that once the apartment complexes are constructed and we receive revenue for those property taxes, that should be about another $27,000 for each apartment complex. They're both estimated to be worth about $22 million. So that would be another $50,000. Tax base of the city.
How does our tax work compare to we
Our tax rate is
basins?
well, plus and before the revaluation. Where it's 25 cents. I think it is.
We've been, we're gonna have to look what we're going to make feel some of these positions. We've got to have additional income coming into the town at least. That was part of this year. Definitely. So, we, got to decide where we need to put the tax rate at. Well, it sounds cheap, property tax rate is too.
No, we're not leaving 25 cents, more or less.
No,
More than less, 27 cents.
How much is everybody going to invest there?
and we got time to look at it. What I heard, I think our going in town.
We had
We do decide to go up very much, we need public hearings to make sure that we get the public involved.
50 cents going nuts. Look at this money we got given.
But I think the town's people, what we're doing, and what's getting ready to happen, should be happy that the rate is that low, even 12 cents. Reevaluation is so cheap. But we got time to make a decision on this still. Evaluation the county's doing, we want to see what our sister towns are doing. After our neighbors, maybe fill it up. But any other, anything else we need to go on or comments?
I just want hard work putting the budget together. And, I think, unless there's anything else that you would like for us to research, if you think about it, we could always talk about it Monday night. And thank you, Ms. Stevens, so much. That's delicious. Thank you.
One, thank you.
No other comment? I have a motion that we adjourn.
So,
All in favor? All opposed? Ayes have it, we're adjourned.